Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. What Sheila just did is something that will leave your jaw on the floor. Because this time she did not just cross a line, she obliterated it entirely. Buckle up because this bold and beautiful storyline is about to take you somewhere you are absolutely not ready for. If you thought Sheila Carter had already reached the absolute ceiling of what she was capable of, this latest chapter is here to prove you spectacularly wrong. Taylor's return to Los Angeles was never going to sit quietly in the background, not with Sheila watching, calculating, and simmering with a resentment that has been building for longer than anyone cares to admit. But nobody, not Steffi, not Finn, not even Taylor herself, could have predicted just how far Sheila was prepared to go. What begins as the quiet obsessive surveillance of a grandmother watching from the shadows evolves into something terrifying, something criminal, something that shakes the entire Forrester world to its very foundation. A child is taken, a mother is sent alone into danger, and Sheila, standing in the doorway of a dark, isolated cabin, believes with every fiber of her fractured being that she is the one who deserves justice. This is not just a kidnapping storyline, this is a psychological breakdown dressed up as a plan. And it is utterly gripping from start to finish. Let's go back to where this all truly begins. Because the setup is everything, Taylor had come back, slipping back into the lives of Finn, Steffi, and little Hayes, and for Sheila, that return was not just an inconvenience, it was a wound reopened. Hayes was not simply a child to Sheila, he was blood, he was the one connection to family that she had convinced herself the universe owed her. And every moment that Taylor spent close to the little boy felt like a theft Sheila could not forgive. In her mind, and this is crucial, she was not the villain of the story. She never has been, not in her own telling. She was a grandmother who had been pushed, excluded, and erased, and Taylor's warm smile and easy belonging were daily proof of everything Sheila believed had been stolen from her. So she started watching, and I mean really watching. There she was at the beach house, hanging back at a distance, hidden behind a wide brimmed hat and oversized sunglasses, her eyes locked on Hayes with an intensity that was almost unbearable. Every time Hayes laughed, every time he smiled, every innocent, joyful moment that little boy lived, it twisted something inside Sheila. When Taylor knelt down to brush sand from Hayes' tiny hands, smiling at him with a gentle, natural warmth, something inside Sheila did not just crack, it snapped. Taylor was no longer simply someone standing between Sheila and her family. She had become the reason Sheila felt invisible, erased, and Sheila does not tolerate being erased. That night she sat alone and planned, not in the reckless, impulsive way she had acted in the past. Sheila was well aware of how those moments had cost her. No, this time it was calculated, precise. She knew Taylor's routines with frightening accuracy. She knew when Steffi stepped away, knew exactly when the house became vulnerable, knew the rhythms of the family better than perhaps even they knew themselves. Imagine that, the sheer cold patience it takes to map someone's life like that. It is genuinely unsettling. When the moment came, it arrived in the form of an afternoon walk. Taylor had taken Hayes to a quiet park near the ocean, kind of place that feels untouchable, safe, far removed from anything ugly. Hayes was chasing a ball, his little feet pattering against the pavement, his laughter filling the air. Taylor watched him with a full heart, completely at peace. And that peace is exactly what made her vulnerable, because parked nearby, watching from behind the wheel of a car, was Sheila, and her moment had arrived. One brief distraction, a dropped phone, someone asking for directions, and in that single heartbeat of inattention, Sheila moved. I can't believe she actually did it. 1 second Hayes was laughing, the next he was gone. The scene that followed for Taylor is the kind of thing that lives in a parent's worst nightmares. She turned back, and the smile faded. Confusion first, then a creeping dread, then pure, undiluted terror. She called his name once, twice, and over, her voice rising and fracturing as her eyes swept every corner and shadow of that park. And while Taylor stood there unraveling, Sheila was already gone. Hayes in her arms, her heart racing not with fear but with something deeply disturbing. Triumph. She whispered to the frightened child with an eerily calm voice that he was safe now. That grandma had him imagine how Hayes must have felt confused, scared, reaching for someone who wasn't there. Back at the Cliff House, the news landed like a bomb. Taylor's frantic call shattered everything. Finn went pale. Steffi's shock curdled almost immediately into fury, the single name cutting through her teeth like a blade: Sheila. And even though Finn did not want to believe it, some part of him already knew. This was Sheila's pattern, escalating always to the place that caused the most damage, the most pain, the most irreversible consequences. She had retreated to an abandoned cabin on the outskirts of the city, a place she had prepared in advance, which tells you everything about how deliberate this was. Hayes cried, frightened and utterly bewildered, and for just a moment something almost human flickered across Sheila's face. She rocked him gently, humming softly, whispering that they had been kept apart but that now everything would be different. That now they would all understand. Back in Los Angeles, the guilt was crushing everyone in different ways. Taylor blamed herself with a ferocity that was painful to watch, replaying the moment of distraction on a relentless loop, her hands trembling, tears streaming. Steffi was fighting to hold herself together, channeling her terror into action. And Finn was somewhere in the middle of all of it, carrying a guilt that went down bone deep because he understood, perhaps better than anyone, that Sheila's obsession with this family was tangled up inextricably with him. He admitted it out loud, quietly, the weight of it pressing down on every word. Then came the message, a burner phone, a single, chilling ultimatum. If you want to see Hayes again, Taylor comes alone. The room went cold, because this was not just a kidnapping anymore. This was personal, this was targeted, this was Sheila sending a message that cut straight through the very heart of her grievance. And Taylor, to her immense heartbreaking credit, did not hesitate. She said she would go. Steffi protested. Finn begged her not to, but Taylor looked at them both and said what she had already decided in her soul. Hayes was the priority. Sheila had asked for her specifically, and she was not going to let anyone else absorb that danger. The resolve in her was extraordinary. The terror underneath it was even more so. The drive out to the cabin was its own kind of agony. Every mile felt like an hour. The city lights disappeared behind her, replaced by an oppressive quiet that pressed in from all sides. When the cabin appeared ahead of her, barely visible in the dark, she felt the fear in her bones. But she kept walking, and when the door creaked open and Sheila emerged from the shadows, her eyes glittering with that terrible intensity, saying she always knew Taylor would come, always predictable. The air between them was electric, with everything unsaid and everything about to be said. Hayes was inside, clinging to his toy on the sofa, and Taylor's entire body flooded with relief and anguish at once. But Sheila stopped her with a single raised hand. Not yet, they were not finished, and when Taylor tried to reach her, tried calmly, steadily to appeal to whatever remained of the rational in Sheila, Sheila's response was devastating in its raw honesty. This is not about him, not really. This is about you and everything you have taken from me. The voice wavered between anger and something far more fragile. You walk into their lives, into Finn's life, and suddenly I'm nothing again. Invisible, disposable. What we are watching here is not simply a villain doing villainous things. Sheila Carter, at her most dangerous, is a woman who has convinced herself that her pain justifies everything, every transgression, every escalation, every line she crosses. And what makes her so terrifying is that the core of that pain is real. The exclusion is real. The longing is real. It is the response to that pain that has spiraled into something monstrous. Taylor walking into that cabin alone is one of the most courageous and heartbreaking things this show has given us in years, because she's walking in not knowing whether she's walking out. The stakes have never felt higher, and the emotional complexity has never been richer. Honestly, the storyline is hitting differently because it is not painting anyone in simple colors. Sheila is terrifying, yes, but the writers are making you sit with the fact that her grief is genuine, even if her actions are unforgivable, and Taylor showing up to that cabin alone. That is the act of a woman who knows exactly what she is risking and chooses Hayes anyway. That is love in its purest, scariest form. I'm completely hooked, and I think this is some of the boldest storytelling this show has delivered in a long time. So here we are, Taylor face to face with Sheila, Hayes sitting just feet away, and the confrontation that has been years in the making finally reaching its boiling point. What happens next will change everything for this family. Will Taylor be able to get through to Sheila in a way nobody else ever has? Or has Sheila gone too far this time to pull back from the edge? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Sheila can ever be redeemed after this? Or is this the point of no return? And if you are not already subscribed, hit that button right now because this story is far from over.